Hello, 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 welcome back. Welcome to another video. I hope you are good. It's officially summer, almost, not quite, but I'm on summer vacation. The heat is definitely coming in, and I'm sure it's the same for a lot of you guys. And so, in summer, a lot of us don't have the opportunity to travel as much as we would want, or even to travel at all. And a lot of time gets spent kind of doom scrolling in our room, which is honestly really sad to look back at. So today, with the help of Mimi Glow, a dear friend and Substack writer, I'll link everything down below, we made you a summer media recommendation list to make sure that you're consuming media in a more intentional way, which is a beautiful thing and something we should definitely be doing more of. Particularly reading, in my opinion. I partnered up, as I said, with Mimi Glow, who is a Substack writer, and she also has a YouTube channel, and she's great, and I'll link everything down below. I asked her to give me her list, and I made my own list, and how we're gonna go about this is category by category. I'll start with my recommendations, and then I'll read you the summaries that I found online and her reasoning to why she recommended said book, movie, etc. On that note, let's get straight into it because we have quite a few recommendations to go through. Starting with books and starting with my list first. The first recommendation I have for you is Bonjour Tristesse, Hello Sadness by Françoise Sagan. It is a beautiful book written by a genius of an author when she was only just 17. I'm pretty sure she wrote it in the 1960s, and it is a tale written with melancholy and youth. And the story is that the protagonist, alongside her widowed father, go to the south of France on vacation, where she has her first romantic experience and her dad is kind of messing around. And there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of naivety, and it all ends in a big drama. Beautiful book. She's such a special writer. I read a book of hers every summer. That's how I begin my summers, and I would definitely recommend. It's a bestseller, I'm pretty sure worldwide, and a classic definitely in France and very likely worldwide as well. The next book is Lie With Me by Philippe Besson. This is a love affair between Philippe and his classmate Thomas in the 80s in the south of France, where it was not well seen. So it's very secretive and it's full of very languid, slow, hot days, and the kind of melodrama that is youth and romance, and particularly unallowed romance. It is a very sad but beautiful book, and I would definitely recommend it. I would definitely put it in the same category as Call Me By Your Name, which is the next book in this recommendation. I think if you haven't read or seen it yet, somehow you must be living under a rock. This is definitely the time, especially the book. It really perfectly captures the obsessive mind of the young infatuated, and particularly again in a relationship that should not be because of the concerning age gap. But it's beautifully written. It takes place in the north of Italy. Again, it's filled with these long summer days. And one thing I love about reading books, particularly older books, is the complete absence of phones. And it really makes you think, kind of, like sometimes when you're at home and you're having a really long day and you're on your phone, you're like, yeah, what else am I meant to do? People were doing other things. And I really want to spend less time on my phone. I'm struggling with it a bit, but books and movies, particularly older ones, really inspire me to do so and to actually like bite into the juicy flesh of life instead of just seeing it on my screen. But that's something else. Another book by Andre Atterman, because I think he's a wonderful writer, is The Gentleman from Peru. This is relatively new. I think this came out last summer, and I read it last summer, and it's really great. The initial plot is this group of friends who are stranded in where are they stranded? On an Italian coast. I can't remember which one right now. And they meet the gentleman from Peru, who is a medium and who sees past lives and tells them how they are each connected, the ones to the other. And it's a super interesting book, particularly if you believe in past lives, if you're curious about past lives, if you're curious about this feeling of love and how it generates. And yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It takes place on the Amalfi Coast, so very Euro summer vibes. And then the last book I have that is in a similar realm as Lie With Me and Call Me By Your Name, which is a genre I really like, is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. Insane author. I read this last summer on a long chair on a beach in Italy. Really good. Would recommend. This is, let me read you the blurb because I feel like it will do it much, much, much more justice than I will. David, a young American in 1950s Paris, is waiting for his fiancée to return from vacation in Spain. But when he meets Giovanni, a handsome Italian barman, the two men are drawn into an intense affair. After 3 months, David's fiancée returns, and denying who he is, he rejects Giovanni for a safe future as a married man. It is a decision that will bring tragedy. Beautiful, really, really, really slow, languid, hot days. You can feel the heat, the kind of uncomfortable heat emanate from this book, and it's beautifully written. And I want to read much, much, much more James Baldwin this summer and in my life in general. I haven't gotten quite around to it, but such a stunning book. My last recommendation is anything by Eve Babbitt. If you don't know about Eve Babbitt, she's a writer, I'm pretty sure from the mid-70s, who was based in California, more specifically in Hollywood, and she wrote about that life, the parties, the drugs, the love affairs, and it's infused with the hot summer sun and with this really carefree youth. And it screams summer, and it is a life that is so vastly different from mine because I'm not a starlet, unfortunately. I don't live in Hollywood, and it's not the 70s. It's very different to what I know. It's so beautiful to read, and she's a great, great, great author. Then I'll be moving on to Mimi's recommendations. The first one being, this one was me because I wanted to recommend it too, The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Milan Kundera. Let me read you the blurb and then I'll get into it. Milan Kundera tells a story of a young woman in love with a man torn between his love for her and his incorrigible womanizing, and one of his mistresses and her humbly faithful lover. This magnificent novel juxtaposes geographically distant places, brilliant and playful reflections, and a variety of styles, to take its place as perhaps the major achievement of one of the world's truly great writers. And Mimi writes, the story is deep, reflective, and beautifully written, one of those books you don't want to put down. And I couldn't agree more. It is a book that makes you think of the meaning of life, of love, of friendship, of youth, and is particularly interesting because it is set in the Prague Spring of 1968, which was a time of revolution against the Communist Party that had taken over. So it is also fueled with political tension of a nature that I, for one, living in a very much non-communist environment, did not know. Obviously, I knew there were tensions, but it's not a tension I witnessed or have seen the consequences of being born so far away from this. But super interesting. And a friend of mine is actually Czech, and we were talking about it, and fantastic novel. Also, it's so interesting to immerse yourself in a political context that is vastly different from yours. Would highly, highly recommend as well. The next book Mimi recommends is Delicacy by David Fonikos. Losing her beloved husband after only 7 years of marriage, heartbroken widow Nathalie steels herself against the emotional attachments until she unexpectedly falls in for her offbeat Gillis coworker Marcus, who represents the opposite of everything. And Mimi states that this is one of the best French authors out there. I read this 2 summers ago and it stayed with me. The writing is delicate, emotional, and so touching. I completely fell in love with his style. I read it in my summer vacay in a hotel before going to the pool, and I had so much fun. And that screams summer to me. The next book is Against Interpretation by Susan Sontag, who is an American writer, critic, and public intellectual. Against Interpretation is an appreciation of art that emphasizes form and style over moral context. And Mimi writes, I read this a couple of years ago. It was a bit challenging at times, but honestly, I really enjoyed it. It made me think in new ways, and I definitely recommend giving it a try if you're into essays and critical thinking. And the last book by Mimi is Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke. This book is pure wisdom. Rilke shares advice on creativity, criticism, inspiration, love, life, and loneliness in the most poetic way. It's the kind of book you can read while sunbathing by the pool. It's short, profound, and leaves you thinking. You'll definitely learn a lot. So beautiful recommendations, and it's perfect because these link me to my next point, which is to read nonfiction in the summer. I feel like you have more time to really dive into subjects that interest you. Two of the main groups that have and do interest me now, which I will give you some recommendations for, are art and art history and love, the science of love. For art history, I can recommend Ways of Seeing by John Berger, Widow Basquiat by Jennifer Clement, who is Basquiat's longest lover, and she wrote a biography of him, as well as Funny Weather by Olivia Lang, which is a collection of essays on artists who have changed the world artistically, politically, and socially. This is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful book, which I bought in the gift shop of the Tate Museum last summer when I was in London. Stunning. And then I also think it is such a good time if you have any coffee table books. I have a pretty big pile of art books, which I don't necessarily always have the time to read. And summer is such a good time to lay down, leaf through the pages, look at the images, read the text, learn a bit more about what interests you. And the same goes for love. I think love is such a interesting topic, and you can see this in the book recommendations I gave before. And I'm trying to dive deeper into it in a more nonfiction kind of way. So I read Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton, which I feel like is the gateway book to this topic. Then right now I'm reading Conversations on Love by Natasha Lund, which is a series of interviews with different writers on love. And it is super interesting because the writers are from all kinds of different backgrounds, all different ages, and have vastly varying views and interpretations on love. And the main gist of the book is that it starts kind of on how to acquire love, then but not really in a like cosmopolitan how-to way. Okay, more in a like what goes on, what are things to avoid, etc., etc. And then in a what to do when you're in the midst of a love, and then what to do in case of potential loss of said love. And I also really want to read All About Love by Bell Hooks. I think it's just such an interesting time. Like, I think if there's a topic that interests you, whether this is love, whether this is the art of language, whether this is philosophy, whether this is about calligraphy, whatever topic interests you, summer and these like long, often empty days are the perfect moment to really dive headfirst into any topic that you've been curious about. On that same note, I recommend reading essays, and we have a list of Substack channels recommended by Mimi, which I'll all link down below. And as I said, Mimi herself writes on Substack. She's my favorite Substack writer, so definitely make sure to check her out. And she recommended Postcards by Elle, All Over the Place, Angel Cake, and Milk Fed. So check those out too. Substack is a beautiful website, in case you don't know, where writers publish essays, kind of diary entries sometimes. It's a bit like a collective blog, and you can follow different channels. So check it out. It's super interesting, and you can find really, really, really good articles on there. The next recommendation is the Wild Geese podcast and YouTube channel by Anne Howard. She is also a Substack writer, and she posts the most amazing podcast episodes on creativity, life in the midst of our digital era, how to start art projects, etc. But they're so good and well researched, and they'll leave you inspired. So definitely check her out as well. And now we'll be moving on to movies. I'm definitely a wannabe cinephile because I tend to rewatch the same stuff. I don't know why. I guess it comes from a place of comfort, and this is definitely something I want to change this summer, and I want to watch way more movies. Mimi, on the other hand, is actually really good at this, and this is actually what inspired me to work on this with her, because on her Instagram, she'll post recaps of the movies she watched lately, and it's so inspiring. So also make sure to follow her Instagram. My movie list starts with, and I feel like this might have been a bit of a cheat, and I chose it mainly for the name, but it's a great movie and you should watch it anyway. 500 Days of Summer. If you've seen the movie already, let me know on whose team you are. But 500 Days of Summer is a story on love, and more specifically on the delusional image we can build of the person we're infatuated with, and how we can see actually right past them and not see them for who they really are, but see them for who we'd want them to be. It's beautiful, it's kind of funny, and I think it's a really, really good movie. Then Moonrise Kingdom by Wes Anderson. Wes Anderson in general is such a young, useful creator, and I really love what he does, and I really want to watch The Phoenician. But Moonrise Kingdom is the story, the first romantic story of these two young kids. It takes place during summer camp, and they're on a quest for freedom, and it's so sweet and pure and warm and delightful, and you really, really should watch it. Then Before Sunrise, the trilogy, particularly the first one in my opinion, I feel like you've most probably seen this, or you've most definitely seen clips on of this young woman in a train, and this gentleman in front of her is like, will you come off at Vienna with me, spend the night with me? And she says yes, which you most definitely should not do if you're in that situation, but it's a movie, so it's beautiful.
All I know is I have to catch an Austrian Airlines flight tomorrow morning at 9:30, and I don't really have enough money for a hotel, so I was just going to walk around, and it'd be a lot more fun if you came with me.
Let me get my bag.
They end up spending an amazing night of deep conversations, of laughs, of walking around the city all alone, and it's stunning. And I actually have never seen anything else like it. What a strike of genius to create that movie. I think it's stunning, and you should definitely watch it. And then my last recommendation is An Easy Girl, which is fun and warm and a bit sexy and takes place on the French Riviera and just screams summer. And then, as I said, Mimi is more of a cinephile than me, and so a lot of the movies she recommended I have not seen yet, but they are on my list as of now. The first one being A Summer Tale, which is a quiet, introspective French film about a young man on vacation in Brittany, torn between three women and his own indecisiveness. It captures the languid pace and emotional restlessness of a solitary beachside summer. Then La Collectionneuse, which I really want to watch. It's about two men staying at a Riviera villa, and their clash with a young woman who refuses to follow their ideas of propriety. A sun-drenched exploration of flirtation, ego, and the passivity of summer days. That sounds so stunning. Then Le Bonheur, a seemingly happy man starts an affair believing it will only increase his happiness until things unravel. And then summer is also the season of rom-coms, and Mimi recommends 13 Going on 30, which is about a 13-year-old who for her birthday wishes she was 30 and successful instead, and she wakes up exactly as that, only to find that she is very much unsuccessful when it comes to her love life, and this gives her the opportunity to go back and change it all, because at the ripe age of 13, she's obviously committed so many mistakes. But it's a good, fun, feel-good movie. The next one being How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, which I think most of us have seen, and if you haven't, this is your sign that you really, really, really should. It is one of the most romantic rom-coms about these two New Yorkers who basically are both fooling each other for the sake of their career, and throughout this kind of lie of a relationship, they notice that they're actually falling more and more for each other. Beautiful movie. And the last recommendation we have by Mimi Glow for today is Party Girl, which is a New York club kid turns her life around by becoming a librarian, all while keeping her signature style. It's vibrant, rebellious, like a hot summer night in the city. I truly, truly hope you like these recommendations. If you've seen or read or watched any of these before, let me know what you think. And if you have other recommendations, comment down below. Don't forget to like, follow, comment, and subscribe. And I hope to see you really, really soon.